Hello? What the heck happened? Give me a sec. And I like how it's not counting that as a crash. That's dumb.
Wagon.
The wagon, high star. I think we're about to start playing games. Did you want me to do that armor video? And we're gonna try to do it. It does not like it when I switch over this anymore. Alright, let's do this react video real quick. Boob armor is awesome. I mean, it is. That would be like the... Physically, you would have to protect that because it's like your boobs are in front of your part and you're like they're in front of your, they're on your chest. They're in front of good things in your body. Quack, quack.
So Sisters of Battle, they have to be one of the coolest 40k factions, right? Just a bunch of badass ladies running around with bolters, flamers, and a religious fervor to rival the most powerful anti-vaxxers. However, something I've seen a good amount as of late were people saying the armor isn't a great design, and by armor, we all know what I'm referring to. But if you don't, I'm talking about the boobs, baby! Big old boobies! B-O-B, boobs! Sisters of Battle, more like, sister, I have to battle the urge to look at those boobies, am I right? Why the fuck did I write that last night? But anyways, a lot of people, they don't like the Sisters of Battle armor, and for a number of reasons. And so today I kind of just want to delve into that topic and figure out, does the Sisters of Battle boob armor make sense in the context of 40k? And before we get into this, I just want to preface this by saying, I'm not a historian or armor expert or anything. I've done my research, but I'm not claiming to be the #1 source on any of these topics, so take what I say with a grain of salt. And if I make any mistakes, please feel free to correct me. But with that out of the way, let's get into it. So I've seen a lot of people criticize the Sisters of Battle armor for a few reasons, and I'll just rip the band-aid off right now. I don't think a lot of those reasons make sense in the context of 40k, and I actually think they have a really good armor design. And before you call me some wild Coomer or something, please allow me to explain why I think that the Sister of Battle boob armor actually makes a lot of sense and is a good design. So, the biggest complaint I see is that boob armor is just stupid because it's not practical. A lot of women in fiction, they wear these boob armors or these other questionable suits of armor, and it really just doesn't make sense as armor. And that's true. The only problem I have with that is that 40k often doesn't have exclusively practicality in mind, if ever. I don't think that this Exarch needs this funky hat to fight better. This captain doesn't need to wear a giant-ass skeleton around his shield to block some bullets better. Magnus, he doesn't need his frickin' titty horns to break the webway and ruin the galaxy by doing quote-unquote nothing wrong. Even the relatively utilitarian guard is led by this dude on a shining golden horse, and don't even get me started on his much cooler predecessor who looked like a mini god emperor with his god tier drip. Yeah, so practicality isn't really the #1 thing in 40k. And even real-life historical armor isn't exclusively about practicality. Likely the most well-known example of that is the muscle cuirass. This is a type of armor that was used in ancient times by a few different nations, most notably ancient Rome, having sculpted abs and sick-ass pecs. Those have no purpose other than drip, but there is evidence that these pieces were actually used in battle. But those aren't even the worst of it. Sir, the enemy forces are approaching. I don't know if our forces can handle them. We may die today. How many are there? 1,000? No, sir. 10,000? No, less than that, sir. What? 500? Sir, there is one knight approaching. What? Why would we be threatened by one measly gnaw? Oh, dear Lord, help us. That's right. There's real-life armor out there that has a large metal dong sticking out. And let me introduce you to the cod piece. Back in the good old days, the coolest cats on the block, they all wore these cock-shaped cod pieces in order to be modest about their cock-shaped cocks. Following the modern trends, this epically badass piece of intimidation was worn by some rich people who wanted to show off how flippin' cool they were on the battlefield. And, as you might have guessed, these pieces have very little practical use in combat. There's even things that are less extreme that show that practicality isn't the only thing that's considered when making armor. There's tons of
Nah, the one with the face. That's... Hello?
examples of armors with these cool engravings and awesome decorations that really serve no purpose. Many cultures, they just make cool looking armors because, well, they look cool and they're a sign of power, wealth, or it's just a cultural norm at the time. And to me, this idea just fits the Sisters perfectly. The Sisters are the Ecclesiarchy's military force, and to the Imperium and the Ecclesiarchy, religious fervor is extremely important. and they would obviously wear things that would reflect that. Here's another historical example. Samurai armor, it's one of the coolest looking armors, right? Weeb! Alright, shut up. You know it's true. But anyways, one of the most striking details of samurai armor are the badass masks. You got demons, you got mustaches, you got, I don't know, something weird. But yeah, these masks, they technically have no practical reason to look like this. They don't help you in battle. And some would argue that it's actually detrimental to have these giant mustaches sticking out of your face, or the extra weight of the demon ornamentation would be detrimental in battle, this and that. But despite that, the masks were quite frequently worn, and it's commonly believed that these masks were worn as intimidation, and some other researchers believe that the warriors may have even thought that these pieces of armor could help ward off bad spirits. Intimidating armor, power of belief, faith, and gaudy decorations potentially warding off evil spirits. Does that sound like anyone? Yeah, in 40k, belief literally has power over the force of chaos. For example, in 40k, a passionate stroke of the blade will kill a demon better than a shot taken from a million-man gun line. And Sisters of Battle, they literally ride churches and sing hymns as they slay enemies of the Imperium. They are just as important as a symbol as they are a fighting force. Now you might say, okay, but what does that have to do with boobs? I clicked for the boobs, and I want boobs!
I clicked for the boobs,
Yeah,
and I
keep
want
your pants
boobs!
a little longer. I'll get to that soon. But before that, one important aspect of the Adeptus Sororitas is that they are an all-female fighting force. Their femininity is an inherently important aspect of their order and existence. The Sisters of Battle, they came to be the Ecclesiarchy's military force after Mr. Van Dyer decided to have a little oopsies and kill billions, and so the decree passive forbade the Ecclesiarchy from gathering, training, promoting, sustaining, or in any way commanding any force of men under arms. However, due to imperial bureaucracy and a general 40k silliness, a Macbeth-esque loophole gets pulled in which the ecclesiarchs reason that, oh, well, you know, the Sisters of Battle, they're all girls, so that would exempt them from the decree because they aren't men under arms. They're actually women under power armor. But, you know, with this in mind, it does make perfect sense to me that the armor of the sisters would emphasize their femininity along with showcasing religious iconography. The fact that they're female is the reason that the ecclesiarch gets to have a military at all. And so, the dreaded boob armor and corsets, they make sense in driving this point home, you know? But even with that, I know there's still going to be some people who say, well, that's not a valid reason. The armor, it's still impractical and it's not befitting of an elite fighting force. And to that, I kind of just raised the question of whether or not real-life downsides of ornamental armor would even apply to the Sisters of Battle. And so what do I mean by this? Well, the most commonly said disadvantages of boob armor, as far as I can tell, are 1. They have poor force distribution, 2. There's more grab points, and 3. It's often heavier. However, taking into account the lore of 40k, I feel like all 3 of these disadvantages are made a bit moot because of a few reasons. So first off, let's address the extra weight. The armor the Sisters of Battle wear is power armor, meaning that not only is it extremely resilient, but it's also powered and enhances strength. Okay. And this is important because, although they won't be as reactive as a Space Marine, since they don't have the black carapace, the extra weight of the armor would be pretty negligible. So having a bit of extra boob-shaped plate likely wouldn't meaningfully hinder the Sisters of Battle at all, nor would all their little trinkets and skulls. Alright, now let's address the second issue of force distribution. When criticizing boob armor, many point to the fact that the shape basically funnels strikes into the center of the chest onto a weakened point of the armor. And this is obviously bad because it allows more force to be put onto a vital point. However, I think this is once again mitigated by the fact that sisters are wearing power armor, and also, to a certain extent, the enemies that they face. What do I mean by this? Well, power armor is extremely durable and resistant, so most conventional small arms weapons wouldn't likely do much damage or penetrate the armor at all. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, any of the insane 40k weapons that could penetrate power armor with efficiency, they would likely do so regardless of the relatively small weakness. For example, power weapons in 40k, they basically work because they have an energy field that splits things on a molecular level, and so that means it could cut through pretty much any armor with ease. So having a small weakness wouldn't really change that fact, you know? Alright, lastly, we have the issue of grab points. Like the last few topics, I think that the context of 40k matters. Most enemies that could hit a grab point and knock you down, they would likely just kill you with that strike. And if they couldn't, it's unlikely that they would be able to do meaningful damage even when you were knocked over. For example, if a Khorne Berserker is running down the battlefield, he's likely insta-killing anything he happens to hit. And so, in that regard, it wouldn't matter if a Chain Axe happened to hit the grab point of the boob armor, because you would just be dead. And on the other hand, if a cultist was able to somehow get his like spear or sword lodged into the cleavage of the boob armor and knock the sister over, it's unlikely that he'll be able to do much meaningful damage before the sister's able to respond with her superior strength, speed, and durability. And so to that extent, the extra grab points of the armor don't really matter all that much. So, to conclude this video, I just want to clarify,
I get
I'm not
his
trying
point.
to say that the Sisters of Battle
Like,
armor doesn't
complaining
create
about
some
the
weaknesses
boob armor
over more
when
practical design.
one, power
However,
armor, and two,
what I am trying to say, and the
anything
whole
that
argument
would
of the video,
take advantage
is
of
that I
that
believe there are very
doesn't
valid
need
lore
to take
reasons to
advantage
have
of
things
that.
like boob armor. And in addition, I think there's enough historical and cultural precedent to plausibly believe that the elite fighting force of a future megachurch would wear armor like this. And I think that the weaknesses that the boob armor presents are small enough to justify their existence, if it means that the sisters have a more powerful image and that they send the messages that the ecclesiarchy wants to send.
Like, yeah, I've noticed that the Warhammer armor feels like it's part intimidation, part armor. It makes sense. Anything that could have taken advantage of those weaknesses that it would probably have, don't need to take advantage of those weaknesses, and anything under that wouldn't be able to take advantage of those weaknesses because it's power armor. So understandable. Yeah, rule of cool, let's sell models before we all 3D print our models. I've heard that that's a thing.
Drop your guns and swords and join me anytime.